We have Director Mike Bruno, the Director of Investigations today. Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you for coming today. My name is Mike Bruno. Today what we're going to do is do an update for the officer-involved shooting yesterday. This case really speaks to the dangers that police officers face every day in, day out, and how quickly the job can change for these officers. So, a little bit of background. Between March 2nd and March 8th, there were more than a half dozen robberies to businesses. Our detectives noticed a pattern that was occurring in these robberies. Many times the handgun was a multicolored handgun that the suspect used, and so we began putting a plan together for capturing our suspect. Yesterday, March 8th, at approximately 1:40 p.m., the suspect robbed yet another business. This one was located in the 2000 block of West Edgewood Avenue. Within 30 minutes, there was an additional robbery that occurred in the 5200 block of New Kings Road. Fortunately, in that last incident, we had a witness that was able to provide us with information on our suspect vehicle. That information was quickly broadcast to the officers working the area, and within just a handful of minutes, one of our officers that had not even begun his shift yet was able to locate the vehicle in the 1000 block of Lime Street. Our officer initiated a traffic stop on the suspect's vehicle, and while he's initiating that traffic stop, a lot of things simultaneously occur. As the suspect vehicle stops, the driver's door opens, the passenger door opens, and a passenger steps out with his arms up. Within just a handful of seconds, while the officer is giving commands to the suspect or the passenger that has exited the vehicle to lay down on the ground so he can continue to control the scene and give other commands, within just a handful of seconds, the driver begins shooting at our officer. The officer is able to return fire while still taking cover and trying to basically get to safety. As all of this is occurring, an additional passenger exits the vehicle, a white female, and she just basically initially stands there and begins slowly to walk away from the scene. So during the exchange of gunfire, one of the passenger that exited the vehicle has a slight injury to his cheek and to his leg, but while all of the gunfire is going on, Rodriguez then speeds off. So this information is broadcast, as I said. He speeds off to an unknown location. That information is broadcast to the officers in the area. They work to locate him. He's now shot at a police officer, and so they find him in the 1300 block of Picketville Road. As officers attempt to apprehend him, he flees from the vehicle, and a perimeter is set up to apprehend him. Officers continue to search the area, and we receive information that he's located in a dumpster. So as officers approach with a K-9, the suspect throws the gun out. You can see he'll throw the gun out of the dumpster. It lands on the ground. Our officers take him into custody, and without any further incident. So, like I said, we're going to watch the video in a minute, and it really speaks volumes for how dangerous the job is that our officers, our men and women of this agency do every day. Our suspects in this case are Luis Rodriguez. He's 40 years old. He has been charged with attempted murder of a law enforcement officer and 2 counts of armed robbery. Andre Williams and Elizabeth Steele, he is 50 years old, she is 39. They have also been charged with armed robbery. Overnight, our robbery detectives did a great job continuing to work the cases and try to bring a conclusion to them. As I mentioned, we already identified the pattern involving this, and so we potentially have 6 additional robberies that Rodriguez will be charged with. With that, I'd like to go to the video. So as you can see, our officer is just now initiating the traffic stop. The door's already open. You can see the timer in the bottom left. That's from the time he put his car in park.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
The encounter took 14 seconds from the time he put it in park. The gunfire didn't even start until 11 seconds.
2547! Placiana line! Shots fired! Shots fired! Placiana Canal is going northbound on Canal!
So, like I said, we talk about the dangers and we talk about how quickly things can change, and that's a perfect example of that. Here's some pictures of the car. If you remember, the officer was standing right beside that door. You can see the bullet holes going through the window, through the doors. And even to the back of the car, like I said, because the officer's taking cover behind the vehicle. So this is the video of where I talked about the apprehension of the suspect, the shooting suspect in the 1300 block of Picketttville. So this is the apprehension point there.
If you reach that gun, you're getting shot. You understand me? Step out with your hands up. Do it now. Stop. Stop. I got verbals. Step out with your hands up. Do it now. You are about to get shot. You understand me? If you...
So you could already see that the gun was on the ground, and there's a picture of where the firearm was on the ground. And that's basically what the officer's doing. He's taking command of the situation. We've got K-9 that's there. We've got other officers. And you'll hear the officer say, I've got the verbal commands. He's taken, like I said, he's taking control of that situation. He's the only one that's talking to the suspect to avoid the confusion that may happen. It's a very chaotic scene. But sometimes that's what we deal with in police work. So our investigators are continuing to gather information on the specific cases. So we're asking the community for any additional information that they may have on this case from yesterday, or the two cases from yesterday, or any of the other cases that we're continuing to work. So if they have any information about our suspects or something that may involve them, we ask that they call our non-emergency number at 630-0500 or email jsocrimetips@jacksheriff.org, or they can remain anonymous by calling our partners at First Coast Crime Stoppers 1-866-845-TIPS. With that, I'll take any questions.
What happened to the other person that was transported to the hospital? Because yesterday during the briefing, we were told he was in critical but stable condition, but I didn't see anything that would put him in that condition. He didn't get shot, so what actually happened to him?
So that's what we're still trying to figure out. He does have metal fragments in like his right chin, and there's some kind of scratch or mark on his leg, and so we're not sure if that's a ricochet or secondary, where a bullet jacket maybe came off or something. We're still trying to figure it out. But to your point, when you look at the video, we're not really sure. I mean, we'll still take a look at it and continue to investigate it, but there's a lot of questions that we're still working through. And you bring up a great point. We're really early with releasing this video, but there are certain circumstances in this case that other cases may not have, to where we're able to present this today. That also, we still have a lot of questions. Where normally we would have more time to get some of these questions answered. We're still really in the early stages of that.
And you say that Rodriguez may be possibly tied to 6 other armed robberies. What about the other 2 suspects? Are they also tied possibly to those 6 other robberies?
So the charge from yesterday is related to those robberies. We haven't tied them to any of those robberies yet, but obviously, like I said, we're still really in the infancy stages of our investigation. So
looking to see.
So if there's some tie or we're able to put that together through our investigative means, we'll certainly place the charges, but we're not there yet.
This is the second, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the second police shooting incident involving the same officer?
Yes, sir. He had one prior, November of 2018.
How is he doing now? I know yesterday there was, obviously with everything happening, but how is he doing today after all of this, given how fast this played out?
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that we find out often in this career is right after the incident, you still haven't fully absorbed or realized what occurred, and then as a few days or a little time, it really starts to settle in of how bad this could have been. Just like I talked about how close he was to that door, and you can see where the bullet strikes are to the door. So, I mean, listen, that's a lot of stress, and these officers carry this with them the rest, not just the rest of their careers, the rest of their lives. So, I mean, we often talk about the tragedies that are associated with officer-involved shootings, but the reality of it is that the tragedy involves our officers as well as the families that are impacted by these incidents.
Can you talk about the disregard? Because I know our crime and safety expert, Ken Jefferson, brought this up yesterday. Just the disregard that this guy had, not only just towards himself, because obviously he put himself in a position to be fired back at, but the community in general, when you consider that's a heavy residential area. You've got a school right across the street that luckily was on spring break, and you've got a community center right there as well.
Right. Well, and listen, there have been a lot of discussions about police agencies, police reform. We can always do things better, but the reality of it is this should outrage anyone in our community. This violates every social norm. I mean, we all want to live peacefully. We all want to live safely. And for someone to just, like you said, total disregard for the officer and what he's trying to do, and for everyone else in that community, it should outrage the community. It's senseless. It's senseless.
How long has this officer been with JSO?
He started in 2015, August of 2015.
Did you say that this is his second officer involved?
It is his second officer-involved shooting.
Okay, and for the passenger who did get out and got injured, did you say that we aren't 100% sure yet if he got shot, how he got injured?
We're still working through those details. It appears as though there's some metal fragments or something. Like I said, we don't know exactly what happened, if it's a ricochet, if it's something else that occurred or what. We're still trying to piece that together. I mean, obviously, we've got the video that shows real time, but like I said, because of so many challenges, it doesn't really clearly show what happened.
Did these three fit the same MO of the other robberies that you guys were looking into when you said that there had been like a string of robberies around the city? Did they fit that same MO?
Rodriguez did. So in regards to that, the handgun matched that, as well as the information that we had regarding the suspect that would walk in there with the gun. So Rodriguez fits that. Whether they're a getaway driver or whatever part they play into that, and casing or a lookout or something, some of those things are still yet to be determined. But as far as the individual entering the store with the firearm, that's Rodriguez.
Speaking of the firearm, was that firearm legally obtained? Do we know if that was legally his, or was
So
it stolen?
we're still working on some of the trace information and the ballistic pieces of that. We've got some of the early information there, but we're still working all of that fully.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
You all need to play that video. It's under trending topics. I can play it now if you all need it.
Jack, do you need it? Or you just like take it on the trending top? Do you need her to
Did you
replay the
need it,
video?
Mayor?
Or do you want her to
Like,
take it on the
everybody's
trending
good?
top?
Okay.
They got it, but they'll get it.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Be safe.